company in Mesa, and then made my way back to Fort McClellan in '91, and that's where I helped process out of the military. I went and looked. I started searching for my old Army buddies, and I ran across this Fort McClellan toxic exposure, and I never knew about it. So I started looking into it and speaking with people like Mike Wilson about how this could happen, what can be done, and being a filmmaker, I thought, you know what, maybe this is the tool to kind of spark the people that don't know about it, because there's tons of service members that went through Fort McClellan that know nothing about this.
Well, there are. I mean, I found out 2 years ago because of Law Enforcement Today. They had an article in there, Poison Patriots of Fort McClellan. I mean, I was like, huh? Of course, it started explaining all sorts of stuff with the health issues, but, you know, it's unfortunate that they're not letting us know anything. So back to Mike real quick. You started this group on Facebook, you said?
Yeah, it's been about a year ago. We've actually grown quite quickly to 3,000 members. The word's getting out. That's my hope. The biggest travesty of this thing is people are out there that are sick and they don't know why, and it's just disgusting that the government's it's almost like they're waiting for us to just die off so it'll go away. Here's the thing. On my site, in my files section, everything we need proof-wise from the DOD, EPA, U.S. Army, all the reports, their own reports are there. This is real. It's happening. And we continue to just get ignored. Not to mention a $700 million settlement with Anniston, Alabama.
Yeah, well, that in itself is enough to really drive us nuts. That's why I actually sent a comment to the Star, the Anniston Star, saying, well, what about us? I mean, what are we, third-rate citizens?
Yeah, I just don't get it. You know, the Camp Lejeune thing, it finally went through. And I know there's other sites around the country. We all need to just get together. The government needs to acknowledge this. We're not going to go away, because I found out recently that, you know, through physicians that this will affect our children.
Oh, what?
This affects us on a mitochondrial level.
I can attest to that with my children. Absolutely. I can also say that, you know, I've been in and out of the hospital for all sorts of phantom pains, I guess, because they're never finding anything. Had a CAT scan, and they finally found fat infiltration of the liver. That's why my enzymes are off. And, of course, you know, they say, wow, maybe you're too fat, which I'm not. But anyway, then I look into it, and I dig and find, yeah, PCBs can cause that kind of stuff, and heavy metals can as well.
Oh, I talk to 2,000 to 3,000 people a month about this, and listen to symptoms, what the doctors are telling them. We're all traveling the same path. What's amazing is when this finally comes together, we're all sick with the same thing.
Yeah, we are. We most certainly are. So, Ted, what are your ideas?
I think speaking with everybody in the group and reconnecting with MPs that went through there, and I've spoken with some of the soldiers that went through the chemical school. I was in the process of doing several other different projects, and I went to the CEO of this small film company that I have, and I explained to him how passionate I was about this project, of doing this documentary, not only for the veterans that went through Fort McClellan, but to raise awareness to just the citizens of America. I mean, I'm sure that if they saw and heard and knew about these veterans at Fort McClellan, I mean, what blows me away about it, and excuse me, I'm a very passionate man, and it irks me because of the same level of integrity and ethical, how do I want to put this?
The first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah. I get my words it's all.
Don't worry, I do that all the time too.
The Department of Defense and the Army and the VA, and especially the people in the subcommittee that HR 411 is sitting in, they're not being held accountable as we were as soldiers. And that's what blows me away. I mean, we had a certain code that we lived by in the military, and they're not honoring the service that we did. And now I've talked to people that they have cancer, you know, they have fibromyalgia. These people are dying, and they don't care. And this documentary is going to put it out there in front of everybody. We're going to, you know, Mike Wilson, he's a consultant on this documentary, and we're going to march to D.C. We're going to get these congressmen and congresswomen on film and asking them these questions. Why are you turning your backs on these people who stood there for you in this country?
Right.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Now,
I wanted to.
Go ahead.
You guys, am I still on?
Yeah, you're still on.
Here's what I wanted to say. Because I want to get the point. On the last radio interview I didn't mention it enough. Everybody, please look up HR 411. It's stalled in committee. Only pressure from the public is going to get this thing passed. This is the third time, maybe fourth, it's tried to go through. It keeps dying on the floor. And also, if you guys could put up a link to the website for Ted Methvin, telling how you can donate to get this film made. Yeah, I mean, there's a donation as little as $5 on
right.
that.
I believe that's already done on the radio show on our station.
I love Ted's message. He's passionate like me. I wish we had more people like that.
Yeah.
You know, we're coming up on an election year, and I hope the politicians that are listening to this realize every one of us 650,000 Fort McClellan veterans vote, and we're watching you.
Well, we need to hold them accountable. Now, Ted, are you just going to stop here with just Fort McClellan, or are you looking at going deeper with the other stuff that's going on as well? I mean, there's 150 bases that are still open that are Superfund sites.
Yeah, since we started on this project, and it's been known, we have had people from actually all over the planet that have come to us about certain issues with bases, certain deployments. Right now, we have filed everything in certain files to be able to look into those further. But to be honest, right now, our whole concentration is on what's going on in Fort McClellan and getting the HR 411, because all those once HR 411 is passed, it kind of gives everybody precedence into being able to pressure Congress to actually take care of their soldiers.
Right.
It gives us presumptive status.
I understand that, but however, isn't 411 just have to do with just PCBs alone, and that's it?
That's you know, and that's, I always try to direct anybody who's interviewing me away from the radioactive isotopes, the myriad of other things that are going on there.
Well, yeah.
This bill strictly is PCBs. But once that door is open, guys, once this bill gets passed, it opens the door to a lot of help.
I agree with you with that, but unfortunately, like I was saying, there's all sorts of other things. I mean, my doctor, basically my primary care doctor, finally, before I got out of the hospital this week, basically turned around and said, well, it's quite simple. My logical conclusion is that you were, contaminated by or exposed to so many chemicals that now your body is acting differently than many others. And, oh, by the way, thank God we didn't find anything in the CAT scan that was detrimental. That's not, I'd like to know what's wrong with me. Put a name to it or something.
It's neurotoxins.
Well, neurotoxins, yes, I understand.
I could go into a lot of things, but symptomatic-wise, again, I talk into 2,000 to 3,000 people a month, and females and males, and not even getting into the children. So you look at all of our ailments. In fact, on my website on Facebook, there is a list of Fort McClellan-related diseases. And people have an aha moment when they read that. They're like, well, I have that. And we all have the same thing.
Right. Mike, you were about to say something as well.
That was
it, huh? Same thing? All right, we're going to go on break real quick, and we'll be right back. This is VNR on 990WBOB.com. Hang on, guys.
Have you ever heard of it? Somewhere between the ribs and wieners lies the home of local and national lodges, featuring one of the premier sound systems on the East Coast. Fed is located at 103 Dyke Street, Providence. Check us out online at FetMusic.com for tickets and upcoming show info. Fed is also available to rent for special events. Email events at FetMusic.com. Now you've heard of us, so there's no excuse. FetMusic.com.
Yacht Club Bottling Works is a family-owned and operated local manufacturer. The facility opened in 1915 with the goal of bringing a premium quality beverage to Rhode Island. A lot has changed over the last 98 years, but Yacht Club is still dedicated to providing premium beverages to Rhode Island and surrounding areas. We still use a sodium-free carbonation process and pure cane sugar as the sweetener. Our flavor syrups are made on site, so we can truly guarantee the fresh quality of our products to your doorstep. Yacht Club is growing to a century of keeping this recipe alive and local. Yacht Club's full product line is available at select vendors regionally or by direct, 401-231-9290, or visit online at yachtclubsoda.com.
Looking for a place to warm your nuts? Come on down to Rhode Island's newest hotspot, the Fat Squirrel, featuring Metal Monday, live music every Friday, and Rhode Island's only adult reggae party with DJ Paul Michael every Saturday. Play pool and darts with kicking back and highlighting in 16-ounce cans, 12-ounce bottles, and 7-ounce stubbies. The Fat Squirrel is an official sponsor of WBOB Silence, so you'll never miss a game on one of the Squirrel's many TVs. Most importantly, there's always free parking at the Fat Squirrel. For new info, call 401-272-2161. That's 401-272-2161. And where is the Fat Squirrel, you may ask? 150 Chestnut Street in Providence. It's that time again. 990 WBOB is brought back by popular demand. Our giant 50% off sale. Purchase $50 gift cards to your favorite places for just $25. Great businesses like Empire Guitars, True Music Studios, Grow Thuds, and more. Need a gift idea for your favorite Valentine? WBOB has you covered. Gift cards from Julian, the Fat Squirrel, and Dennis High School. Hurry up, don't delay. These deals are too huge to last. Shop WBOB today.
You're listening to 990WBOB.com, Renegade Radio.
Welcome back to VNR on 990WBOB.com. All right, we have two callers on, Mike and Ted, and we have a third one, Steve. Steve is, he can be very helpful with this stuff, with this filmmaking and everything else, especially for the others as well. He actually was one of the guys that buried a lot of this stuff in Korea, and I thought it would be very interesting to get him in on the conversation. You there, Steve?
Yeah, I'm here, Sal.
How are you?
Doing good.
That's good. I don't know if you've been listening to the other segments earlier of what's going on.
Yeah, I've been listening in, and you guys definitely are on track. But we all need to keep in mind that we need to look at a much broader spectrum as far as what's involved with the exposure issues. And I've shared some of my documents that I've been able to get my hands on, partially because of the Freedom of Information Act, through my lawyer and subpoenas and different stuff. But this situation, this issue is much, much bigger than just McClellan and Camp Lejeune. I have the documentation and the list, and we need to pull together with all the organizations, because everybody's on different pages and nobody knows what different.
That's understandable. I'm sure that Ted and Mike understand that too, and they will agree.
I have the documents that show that not one, not two, every single military base throughout the system, not just here in the States, but abroad, all have at least, if not multiple, landfills on them.
Right.
And that's the one thing I want to give a heads up to the vets when you're filing a claim, especially guys out of Fort McClellan.
Right. Hang on a second, Steve.
In the corner.
Right.
Huh?
Okay, hold on a second. Mike, you there?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, so basically I thought, having Steve on as well, he's a myriad, he has a lot of information on this stuff.
Yeah, Steve and I need to talk more.
Yeah, you do, and that was the idea of getting you guys together. But of course, we're here today because we're going to be talking about this film with Ted. And of course, please feel free to, to jump in if you have any questions or whatever. But my biggest question right now to Ted is that I have a request, and hopefully you'll be able to do this. I mean, when we do get this film done, I would like you to dedicate this film to a gentleman who was in the forefront of fighting for H.R. 411 as well as all the other H.R. bills that were out there. He unfortunately had ALS and lost his battle last year. His name's Eric Allen. I'm giving a shout out to him as well as to his family, and I think that, something like that would be very appropriate.
Oh, absolutely. We'll, once the funding is done and we start scheduling interviews and start getting out there and talking to people, we fully intend on dedicating this documentary to the people that have passed away fighting this, and even the ones who have passed that didn't know that this poisoning was happening to them.
Now, for those of you,
can I say something to Steve real quick?
Yeah, sure.
I know what you're saying about this issue being much broader than Fort McClellan because, like I said before, the people that have started contacting me about the exposure has actually reached across. We have the USS Ronald Reagan that was over there during the earthquake in Japan. We have the radioactive isotopes, all the people that were exposed to radiation there in Miesau, Germany, at the site there, and then you have Korea and Lejeune, and this is a much bigger, broader issue than Fort McClellan. But Fort McClellan is just a jumping off point for that. Absolutely. But the one thing I got to tell you guys is the reason the vets, everybody as far as here in the States, is the reason we're getting neglected, and Sal has a copy of this document. They are spending not millions, they are going to spend a projected trillions of dollars. And right now, what they're doing, instead of taking care of their own, they're busy dropping money left and right, covering their asses on overseas areas like Korea, Okinawa, and that's why we're getting neglected, because they're trying to cover their asses on the liability where they carry this stuff overseas. Right, and it doesn't help our cause too that a while back they had that tax on the chemical companies, and then they took that tax away and put it on the taxpayers. So a lot of it is they don't have the funding, which to me is absolutely ludicrous.
Well, funding and
the funding ain't there. For instance, just for example, one example, because there's a lot of them, but Korea. And I bet you a lot of the people listening to the radio, taxpayers, don't know this, but right now, if you want to buy some cheap property, the U.S. government, the DOD, owns $83 million worth of contaminated real estate in Korea that's so jacked up, they don't want it back, and we don't want to give it back because they'll find out what we buried under it. So we're just sitting on it, fencing it off, and leaving it alone.
Right, Steve. We also have something. We also have something like that in Fort McClellan, where the BRAC, the Base Relocation and Closure Committee, turned around and said, "A good portion of it's going to have to be fenced off. It's never going to be able to be used."
Absolutely.
They gave it to the Alabama Department of Natural Resources.
They did the same thing with Fort Ord. Now they're stuck with it, and they just, within the last 2 months, found paperwork and records showing that they had Agent Orange stored there in a warehouse, and it leaked all over the place.
Right.
We just had a guy want his claim because of it. So they know what the hell is going on. They're just trying to keep it under wraps because the liability's coming at them like a freight train.
Certainly. Mike, question for you. How are you feeling about all this stuff that you're hearing and going on? I mean, I'm sure you must be very well versed that this stuff is happening all over the place.
I have a dear friend, a personal friend that's a senator and one that's a congressman here in Colorado. Talked to a lot of people out of Washington. And even with the politicians, the first thing that comes up is, no way. You know, it's a credibility thing. And then you have to bring up, well, read a book by Dennis Love. It's called My City Was Gone.
Yeah.
It's out there. Talked about credibility. Number two, 60 Minutes did an expose on this several years back. I mean, 60 Minutes.
Right. Right. However, you know, you can't find that video
now, the biggest
anymore.
credibility in the world is, the biggest credibility is $700 million, almost $1 billion, guys, with a B, was paid out to Anniston, Alabama, which sits on the doorstep literally across the street. Anniston and Fort McClellan they're the same thing. All this was done because everybody assumed the government was going to take care of their own. Well, look where we are.
Yeah, and it's very, very, it's disheartening. I'm going to be very, very truthful. I always thought that, you know, we signed the dotted line. Yes, we did. But, however, they also kind of signed the dotted line with us. But they're not holding up to their side of the deal.
It comes down to money, guys. It literally comes down to money.
Well, I've heard that already from the GAO and everything else. But, you know what? You can't put a price on people's lives or even their biological offspring's lives. You just can't.
You know, this. If you understand about mitochondrial toxicity, this has ruined family lines forever. How many family lines are literally going to be sick? Every generation is going to have this now. This isn't going to go away, and I hope the government isn't thinking of that.
Well, if you guys want a good example of that, you want a good example of that? Just look it up on Facebook, the Hatfield group, where they're over in Vietnam right now at the Nang Air Base, 5+ years after the fact. And the guys are out there taking soil samples, wearing full hazmat suits with bottled oxygen. And I'm serious of heart attack. Look it up. That's how hot this stuff is. And they said that this stuff ain't gonna, and this just isn't Agent Orange. They had other stuff over there, DDT and everything else. You got a toxic soup underneath all these bases, including and they're saying that this stuff ain't even gonna start to think about breaking down for at least another 400 to 500 years. So it's going to continue to do environmental damage. It's going to continue to do chromosome and gene damage, and you're going to continue to have sick and cancer-ridden kids. This is going to be passed on for generations to come.
Well, we already talked about that, how the body photocopies itself cell-wise and everything. So yeah, I can agree with that.
And because the biggest thing I got going on is all the reports are there, and I'm talking only of Fort McClellan at this point.
Yeah.
Like on my Facebook page, I've done so much research and copied and pasted and dug. All the proof is there. There's nothing in question here, and I can't understand to this day, other than money, why nobody's doing anything. But this is going to turn into a huge embarrassment for our government. History's going to say this is
right.
The biggest cover-up ever.
Well, this is, and it is a cover-up, because if we look at last March, when right before the NDAA bill went in, that we had Amendment 83 that Tonko put into that NDAA bill to have the Secretary of the Army contact everyone that was at Fort McClellan, and they struck that. Right before that, in March, they threw in a Protection Act for Monsanto.
Yes, they did.
Now, I'm sorry, but I'm perplexed right now, and I think I'm going to blow a fuse any second now because of this. But
yeah, you can't sue Monsanto.
How the hell can you not turn around and go after the responsible person? Why are they turning around and they are protecting these people? Why are they not turning around and say, okay, HR 411? Well, I have my ideas on this, and it's not conspiracy either. My idea is, well, Monsanto pays off a lot of these guys in Congress, in the Senate, and everything else. They're all on their payroll. I mean, come on, really? Payroll.
That's exactly what's happening. People, our government anymore, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any means, I'm very involved in politics, but lobbyists run this country. I'm sorry, that's the truth.
You're absolutely right. They do.
Well, then I think we need to go down there and lobby ourselves, don't we? Don't we? I mean, I've been trying to do this. I myself have asked for help, and I've never been able to get it. Fortunately, because of this Fort McClellan thing, I'm now on 990 WBOB. And, you know, I thank my producer, absolutely. He's a great guy. And, you know, he's helped me along with all my little issues that I've had getting on the air. But anyway, I think it's getting a little bit better. You guys be the judge.
We need to do a follow-up to this radio interview, too.
Well, of course we do.
This ball rolling.
Of course we do. We do. We really, really do. But, yeah?
One of the things you guys got to keep in mind, the stance, and they've dug their heels in and they're holding their ground, especially with the DOB. Their whole viewpoint on this, their way of sidestepping this issue, they've adopted the policy of plausible deniability. If we say it didn't happen long enough, it didn't happen, which is total BS. But that's where they're coming from.
Well, you know as well as I do, they can't keep up with this plausible deniability. There's too many people getting sick. The states are also being responsible for these people. I mean, people that don't have insurance are ending up on Medicaid. The states can't afford
the job of it so far. You got an entire generation of boys that come back from Vietnam that's been getting a runaround for 35 years. You know,
it's time to stop it.
Bill Cox wrote a book that explains it all, man. Waiting for an army to die, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, but the thing is, they don't die because then you have the other people that inherited this stuff. They're innocent. That's not even their fault. I mean, it's not their fault.
It's harder to prove a secondary exposure when it's passed down, and that's what they're building on or banking on.
Well,
you know, yeah, your grandfather's a Vietnam vet. Well, gee, that doesn't mean nothing. You were never there. Have a nice day.
Right.
And that's going to bring me back to why this documentary needs to get funded. We have to have this happen. This documentary has to happen. I'm going to put as much of my money and resources into it as possible. I know Ted's fully committed. This documentary is going to happen.
Right, and it will, and I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will, and I hope everyone out there listening will understand the gravity of this whole situation.
That's part of the goal of this documentary is you'll see the politicians, once you get someone in there interviewing them and you have a camera in front of them, they seem to kind of change their demeanor from a phone call or a form letter that they send back to you. And to force them to actually make the moral choice of doing the right thing, because millions of people are going to see this documentary. And one of the other goals of this documentary, once it's finished, is a majority, if this documentary makes any money, the majority of the money of this film is going to go to veterans lobby efforts, and then a portion of it's going to go to toxic service too, because there's a lot that needs to be said and a lot that the America needs to know.
Right. Now, it's wonderful that you're doing this. It's wonderful we're all actually working on this, and that's my big thing that I've always said. We all need to get together, no matter what.
That's right. Nobody's going to buy us off with a $100 gift certificate.
Hell no. No, not a chance in hell. I mean, the day I do something like that, hell's going to freeze over, and I don't want to go to a cold place after I'm done.
We're going to win this, guys. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, Ted, I really, really, when we get back, I'm going to start, talking a little bit more, about this film and everything. So if you guys just hang on, we'll be right back. This is 990WBOB.com.
is Econ Electrical Contractors, focused on providing high-quality service and customer satisfaction. We will do everything we can to meet your expectations. Licensed and insured in all of New England, Econ Electrical Contractors offers competitive quotes for residential and commercial work. Call Econ Electrical Contractors, 401-297-1844. For service upgrades, call 401-297-1844. For pool, spa, TV, modules, and more, call 401-297-1844. Or check out EconElectrical.net, leading the trade in quality workmanship. Econ Electrical Contractors. No job is too big or too small. Call today for a free estimate. 401-297-1844. Improve or upgrade the electrical work in your home or business safely, affordably, and as always, your satisfaction is guaranteed. Econ Electrical Contractors. 401-297-1844. The Yacht Bar, located at 171 Chestnut Street in Providence, Rhode Island, is the original 25-plus party spot with the best 80s, 90s, dance retro mixes, vintage top 40, and classic party tunes. You can dance the night away to some of the best cuts on the planet, dedicated to providing the greatest music, the best drinks, and pure fun for all. Find out what you've been missing. The Art Bar, 171 Chestnut Street in Providence. Doors open at 9 and the party stays hot until 2 a.m. Hi, neighbor. Hi, neighbor. Have a gangster. Narragansett lager beer. Always light but not too light. Has the taste, the famous taste that's straight from the what? From famous Narragansett beer. Sweet Spanish. Since 1890. Have a gangster. You'll like it.
990WBOD.com.
Welcome back to VNR on 990WBOB.com. Okay, so we're going to get into the nitty-gritty now of this film. Ted, tell us a little bit what you really, what you're envisioning with this.
The actual title of the documentary, Toxic Service, The Soldier Story, is we're going to heavily feature some veterans who have been affected by this, and we will back up their testimony, if you will, by documents that show that these ailments and the diseases and the sickness and the illness they have is directly contributed to their service at Fort McClellan. And we're going to be speaking with chemists and scientists and public health experts. We actually, and this is kind of a win-win here, especially when you're doing film, is we've sent out letters to the people in the House, kind of gives them a heads up that we're going to be requesting an opportunity to interview them. So you have, on the other hand, if they say yes, we will get them on film speaking their mind or stating their position on HR 411 and the toxic service. But if we get denied, that's just more ammunition for their constituents and for the citizens of America to pressure them to ask them, well, why don't you have a stance on this? And a lot of the documents and a lot of the research for this basically has already been done by Mike. And we're going to take all that and combine it together in probably an hour and a half, an hour and 45-minute documentary film that we're hoping is going to be seen around the world. I mean, the word is spreading. We've got a donation for this documentary from the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So that to me it's gratifying to know that it's actually getting out there and people are interested.
Certainly. The big thing, like I was saying, there's many others out there that have the experience and everything else, and I really, really appreciate you coming up, coming to bat with this. Obviously you are a Fort Mac vet. Have you had any luck with medical people, such as doctors or whatever, that might want to come on to this?
The funny thing about physicians
funny.
is you can go doctor and get your 2 minutes of medicine, and they'll tell you exactly what's wrong with you. But when it comes right down to putting a statement out for the public, there's not really too many people, because obviously they're licensed by the state, and a lot of them they don't want to put themselves out there for ridicule, which to me is ludicrous, because they took that oath.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that. They did take the Hippocratic Oath. Look, as far as I'm concerned, at the VA, they have doctors come there to work that have, their student loans, and if they stay there for I don't remember how many years or whatever, they will wipe out their student loans. So of course they can't bite the hand that feeds them. That's at least what they're thinking. But what about that oath? Yeah,
You know who I'm talking about, but I do have a doctor that I'll hook you guys up with.
Right.
I'm going to throw his name out there right now until we get him out.
Well, that was the idea of this, Steve.
For the VA, and he went rogue when he got tired of getting his hands tied when he tried to help with that. And he's out there now on his own. This guy's credentials are a mile long, and he will go with that.
All right, that'll be great.
Get a hold of that guy.
Absolutely. We'll talk.
All right.
Absolutely.
That'll be fine.
And a lot of people, they get, and it's a camera thing. I don't know if it's stage fright, but a lot of people sitting in front of the camera, they get a little scared. But most of the time, the director of this film, Jason Loring, he is a certified interrogator, and he's very good at making people feel comfortable and talking and saying the things that need to be said. So it's good that we have him on board doing this documentary.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. But they also have to remember one more thing too. We are all trained investigators. Let's think about this. We're trained investigators. What were they thinking?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm kind of the shoe on the other foot guy, so let me give you this little analogy here. So if I have a maid and a security guard watching my house, and the house is full of asbestos and it burns down, and I take care of the maid and her family because she only comes in every so often, but the security's on site, and I totally turn my back on him, that's exactly what is happening to the people that serve there at Fort McClellan. They're picking and choosing who they want to take care of, and it's not fair. And I know it's not a fair world, but these are people who volunteered, to join the military to, protect the Constitution of the United States. And I know that's kind of a funny term lately because of how the Constitution has been used as a doormat, but it needs to be upheld. These people need to be taken care of, and this documentary is with my last breath, I'm telling you, this documentary is going to open some eyes.
Yeah. Now, from what I'm seeing with this, between you, Ted, and I got Steve on as well, and Mike, I think all, the four of us need to put our heads together a little bit more and see how much deeper we can get with this. Like I said, Steve, he is a myriad of information that can also help the Fort McClellan issue. I also had this other guy, George Claxton, on last week. This guy is a guru when it comes to dioxins and different types of herbicides and stuff. A very wonderful person to have on. And I think, you should let this guy in as well. What I'm seeing,
I want to speak with him.
Yeah, you will. I'll get you in touch with him this coming week. I mean, this past week my health has been somewhat frail, so I wasn't able to do that much. What I've seen, however, though, I do find citations on the VA site with people that have appealed for mustard gas, for Agent Orange, for all sorts of other stuff from Fort McClellan that they did win their appeal. So to me, this is somewhat of saying, okay, you're proving that you're wrong. You're proving that you guys did this, but why aren't you helping everyone? This is what I'm not understanding. Why do we all have to play the game?
Yeah, especially when they have 52 congressmen that have signed on to this. 52 sitting congressmen have signed on to this, and nothing's getting done.
Right. Steve, you were saying something?
Well, there's a reason for that, and what they're doing is they filter everything to slow down the flow of the claims that's being approved. And their loophole is the fact that it states every case is awarded on an individual basis. So that way you can't set a precedent. Like if I win my claim, you can't come along and say, well, you can help. It helps. Believe me, you can take some of the language that helps.
Right.
But you can't take a guy from Fort McClellan that won a claim and another guy that come in after, say, 2 years afterwards and use the same language because they're not going to accept it.
Of course
that's
not.
The way they're looking at this.
Yeah.
How they're screwing everybody, and that's why they got this huge backlog. They claim it's because the system's broken. It's not true. It's because that's what they want to slow it down.
Right.
They can't. They got checks. They're writing checks they can't cash.
Right. Okay, we're just getting ready to end the show. So, Ted, you have a message out. You have a message for everyone. The platform's yours. Go right ahead and tell them what you need.
If people truly believe and support their military, they can go to Indiegogo.com and then just search Toxic Service, the Soldier Story. If anybody has any questions or would like to contact me, they can email me at McClellanToxicService@gmail.com, and I'm sure they can get a hold of Mike. But this is a story that needs to be told, and it needs to be seen by the public at large. And like I said before, this is just a jumping off point. This documentary will open the eyes of. It's easy to go out and hang yellow ribbon around a tree.
Right.
It takes integrity and fortitude to actually stand up and talk to people and support the veterans. And I really hope people do.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your time as well, Mike, Steve. I will be in touch with you as all. So get ready to hear from me. Who knows, maybe today or during next week. But this is BNR on 990WBOB.com signing off.